Today on the newscast, Hamas leads a meeting of terror groups in Gaza. Their aim, escalation against Israel. And it's all about Jerusalem. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We have been following this terror wave that's been hitting Israel over the past few weeks very closely. 14 Israelis have been murdered by terrorists in 4 separate attacks. 2 of those attacks were carried out by ISIS-inspired terrorist Arab Israelis. The other 2 were carried out by Palestinians who breached a gap in the Israeli security barrier, came into Israel proper and carried out those attacks. In the meantime, the Israel Defense Forces and Israeli security services have been on very high alert, not surprisingly, and they have been conducting raids in the West Bank. Now, here on the newscast, we call that region Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. That's what the Bible calls it. But in that region, Israeli forces have been conducting dozens of arrests over the past several days. They have engaged in firefights with terrorists, and they have broken up several terror plots. So this is a very tense situation, folks, right now. Not only are we in the midst of Ramadan, but also this is obviously Holy Week. Easter Sunday is coming. Tomorrow is Good Friday, and Jews begin their observance of Passover tomorrow as well. So we have Easter, Passover, Ramadan, all at the same time in Jerusalem, the epicenter. So a very tense time, no doubt. And Hamas is capitalizing on the tense situation and ratcheting it up big time. We had yesterday in Gaza a meeting of terror groups led by Hamas. Hamas called the meeting yesterday, and they assembled the various terror factions in Gaza, of course, including Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And during this terror meeting in Gaza, Hamas vowed escalation against Israel, and it's all about Jerusalem, and in particular the Al-Aqsa mosque. Now, folks, listen to this. I'm just going to quote directly here from the Times of Israel. They said, the Gaza groups, in a joint statement they released yesterday after their meeting, that, quote, "We are declaring a general mobilization in all places where our people are located. We are calling on the masses to come out in the hundreds of thousands to protect our nation and our mosque." Again, the Al-Aqsa mosque, which sits atop the Temple Mount, and they're calling for large marches tomorrow during Friday prayers over the, quote, Zionist threats to invade the Al-Aqsa mosque. So what you have is Hamas clearly stirring things up in a very dangerous way. The situation is already a powder keg, and that's when Hamas does its best work, in their view, and their most evil work, and they try to take things up to a major escalation that could break out into a full-scale war like we saw almost a year ago in May 2021. So 2 things here. Number 1, we're keeping a very close eye, obviously, on Friday prayers tomorrow. We hope they go off without incident, the Muslim prayers atop the Temple Mount where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is now located, where Solomon's temple and Herod's temple, the first and second Jewish temples as described in the Bible, were once located. The holiest site in the world for Judaism, obviously incredible significance for Christians as well. This is where Jesus taught, where he chased out the money changers. But now the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are there atop that site. So we're watching Friday prayers, number 1, tomorrow. And number 2, this is, as I mentioned, coming up, or we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that Hamas-Israel war last May. 11 days of intense fighting in May 2021, instigated by Hamas. Folks, very similar to what we're seeing right now. Instigated by Hamas over Jerusalem, over that Al-Aqsa Mosque in particular, and what Hamas says is Israel's defilement, its threats against the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So a very similar situation. This bears watching closely over the next few days how this develops. I thought this would be a good opportunity to do a little bit of a flashback today, a throwback Thursday here on the Watchman Newscast. I was with my good friend, Danny the Digger Herman, Israeli tour guide, archaeologist, Watchman contributor. You know him very well if you watch us here on the Watchman. And Danny and I were in the shadow of the Temple Mount, and we also spent time atop the Temple Mount, actually several hours, Danny and I on the Temple Mount. A pretty incredible opportunity there. No one else was there. It was a very slow morning. We were able to get up there and walk around. And also afterwards, we filmed in the shadow of the Temple Mount, and we gave context, number one, into how we got here today, the current status quo, quote unquote, atop the Temple Mount, and number two, how hostilities really kicked off last May. I think it's worth looking back at this, folks, to give you larger context about the Temple Mount and what's happening right now and how, God forbid, we could see a repeat. But take a look. Danny the Digger and I in the shadow of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This was filmed right after that war, late May 2021. Take a look. Yes. Interesting, you and I were on the Temple Mount today. We had a rare opportunity to walk around up there, and you made the point that Jews cannot pray on top of the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism, yet Jews are not permitted to pray there. It's been under Muslim control essentially for the past 1,400 years, I guess. Muslim religious authorities control the Temple Mount today. Yes. Tell us a bit about that.
In the Six-Day War, the Israeli paratroopers were attacking from the west, okay? Or so the Jordanians thought. Since we knew that they were expecting us to come from the west, we made a classic maneuver and came from the east. The Motagur's forces entered through the Lion's Gate, right down here. So they came from the back and put the flag of Israel on top of the Dome of the Rock, and the Jordanians turned around and saw, oh my God, the city is conquered. It was a very swift victory. But then, shortly after, Moshe Dayan, the famous one-eyed general, rushes to the site, takes the flag down. No one even got a photo of this moment, and invited the Waqf, the Muslim religious authority, and in a symbolic way gave them the keys. And he said, you can keep it. But the Western Wall and the plaza in front of it is going to be now a Jewish praying place. And that was the status quo for a very long time. Jews were praying downstairs, Muslims were praying
at the
upstairs.
Western Wall.
Yes.
Where we will go later, the retaining wall that holds up the Temple Mount. Danny, I'm getting so much mail from viewers asking, okay, Temple Mount, holiest site in the world, we get it, but why the latest round of fighting? As you said, Hamas was blaming the so-called defilement of the Temple Mount by the Jews on the latest round of fighting. Can you take us through what really happened during that latest round of hostilities between Israel and Hamas?
Yeah, speaking about defilement, often when I go, I see little Muslim kids playing soccer on the Temple Mount, okay? So much for their care for the sanctity of the place. And the violence all escalated when, at the end of Ramadan, young Arab Muslims were collecting a lot of stones into the Al-Aqsa mosque to throw at the policemen. Okay, that's not a very respectful act towards any authority.
So the Al-Aqsa Mosque was being used to basically store weapons, not necessarily guns, but stones and bottles and Molotov cocktails were being stored inside the mosque, the third holiest site in Islam.
To use against the Israeli police and also throw against the Jews praying down at the Western Wall.
So from above, they would throw down?
Of course, that happened many times in the past, and the Israeli police is also there to avoid these situations. And the Hamas decided to intervene in order to appear as the protector of that holy place, when in reality, the motivation is to try and influence the West Bank to support it, because there was supposed to be an election in the West Bank. And Abu Mazen, the head of the corrupted PA, Mahmoud Abbas, decided to cancel it because he realized, I'm going to lose. So it better not do the election.
Because Hamas would have won.
Yes, it might have won. That's what actually happened in Gaza. So he didn't want to take the risk, and Hamas was very upset. Here, they blew up his plan, so let's blow up the whole Middle East.
And that's exactly what
happened. So they fired, and the first rocket was towards Jerusalem.
Yes. 7 in all were launched towards Jerusalem.
Yes.
And they used the Temple Mount as a pretext. More and more, Danny, we see this. It's the center of the world, quite literally, but the center of the world's, not even attention, I'd say obsession. The world is obsessed with Jerusalem, especially this particular piece of real estate, the Temple Mount.
Yes.
Thanks again to our good friend Danny the Digger Herman, as always, for joining us. That clip was from the Watchman TV show. Hey, if you love the newscast, folks, you will love our weekly television show, 30 minutes straight of the Watchman on TBN every Thursday night, 10 p.m. and Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in the States. We're actually preempted tonight for some Easter programming, but we'll be back next Thursday and Friday. And if you want to get an exclusive first look at Watchmen episodes before they hit the air, remember, you can become a premium member. Just go to join on our homepage here on the YouTube channel, and you will get exclusive first looks at any new Watchman episode with some behind-the-scenes commentary from yours truly, and we have some other very cool things planned for our premium subscribers. Whether you're a premium subscriber or not, we are very glad and thankful that you are with us. And remember, as we're talking about Jerusalem, it's literally the geographic center of the world, folks, but more and more, it will become the center, not Berlin, not DC, Tokyo, London, Paris, Jerusalem will be the center of world events. It's certainly the center of God's focus. And the book of Zechariah says that city, Jerusalem, will become like a burdensome stone, a cup of trembling to the entire world, and anyone who comes against it will be cut to pieces. That is in the days to come, and I don't think we're too far off, so continue to follow that biblical mandate and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the Watchman Newscast. Until tomorrow, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.